Queer History, Episode 3, Saints, Secrets, and Scandals. Queerness in the Middle Ages. They say the Middle Ages were dark, all plagues, penance, and people getting burned at the stake. But let me let you in on a little secret. Behind those cold stone walls, there were love letters between nuns, trans monks living their truth, and even a few saints who might have been more than just holy brothers. Yeah, queerness didn't skip the medieval era. It just dressed in robes, lit a candle, and got clever. This is the story of how queer people survived the Inquisition. Born to a Christian family in what's now Lebanon, Marinos was assigned female at birth. But when their father decided to join the monastery, Marinos insisted on coming too, disguised as a man. They didn't just get by, they thrived. Marinos lived as a monk for years, completely accepted as male by their community. When accused of impregnating a woman, a false accusation, they didn't reveal their identity. They endured punishment, exile, even humiliation, all while remaining in their chosen gender. It wasn't until after their death that their biological sex was discovered, and the monks responded not with scandal, but with reverence. They declared it a miracle, and Marinos was made a saint. This is more than just a case of mistaken identity. It's a trans story of resilience, faith, and chosen authenticity nearly 1,500 years ago. Now, let's talk about holy gay icons, literally. Saint Sergius and Bacchus were Roman soldiers in the 3rd century. They were known for their bravery, their Christian faith, and their intense bond. Ancient Greek texts refer to them as erasta, a word often translated as lovers. Their images show them close together, sometimes hand in hand, haloed and radiant. In one icon, Christ stands above them, joining their hands just like a wedding. These two men were martyred for refusing to renounce their faith. But queer believers around the world have long held them up as patron saints of same-sex love, a reminder that faith and queerness were never meant to be enemies. And if you think nuns were all about chastity and quiet devotion, you haven't read their letters. In the Middle Ages, convents were often the only places where women could be educated, expressive, and free from marriage. And within those close walls, romantic and erotic bonds flourished. Hildegard of Bingen, a visionary nun, composer, scientist, fell deeply in love with another nun, Richardis von Strad. When Richardis was transferred to another convent, Hildegard was devastated. She wrote to bishops and abbots begging for her return. One letter reads, "You are so dear to me that it hurts. My heart aches from your absence." Another convent records similar bonds, nuns calling each other my beloved, my chosen one. Some scholars call it conventional lesbianism, not as a modern identity, but as a tradition of same-sex intimacy and love. In a world where women were denied agency, some found it in sisterhood and maybe something more. You probably didn't learn about this in Sunday school. In the Byzantine Empire, the Orthodox Church performed rituals that some historians argued were same-sex unions. They were called idol philosophies, brother making. Two men would stand before a priest, light candles, share wine, and sometimes even kiss. The ceremony resembled marriage in everything but name. In many cases, these men lived together, shared property, and were buried side by side. Does that sound like a brotherhood? Or a medieval marriage? History has a habit of straightwashing the past, but the evidence speaks, even if it whispers. Of course, not all stories end in sainthoods or romance. The medieval world could be brutal to those seen as different. The Inquisition targeted people accused of sodomy, a word that covered anything outside of heterosexual procreation. Men were tortured, exiled, even executed. Women who lived together, refused marriage, or loved too freely were labeled witches. But still, queerness survived. It hid in poetry, it flickered in candlelight. It walked in the monastery halls and whispered behind veils. It prayed, it resisted, it loved, even when the world tried to silence it. Queer people have always found a way to survive, even in silence, even in the shadows. We've been saints, we've been lovers, We've been legends that history tried to forget. Next week, we step into the Renaissance, a time of art, beauty, and queer geniuses hiding in plain sight. See you Sunday!